Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming into my room and showing interest in wanting to hear my learning exchange. Hi. All right. So I think I have not been introduced yet.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you, Ma'am Maria Diana dela Vega, for joining us today and discussing poll quizzes as a form of formative assessment for a sync session. So while we work on creating a poll, please proceed with your sharing.
All right. Thank you. All right. If I may add to our host's introduction, I belong to the accounting economics cluster. I've been with Ateneo Graduate School for 11 years now, and I'm a CPA and doing public accountancy, which means I do external auditing and some accounting services as well. All right. So once again, good afternoon to everyone. I should have a poll, but I think the poll here is disabled for me because I'm not the host. All right, so my title is Poll Quizzes as a form of formative assessment for sync sessions. So I think my title says it all, right? Okay, but before you proceed, I wish that all of you are feeling either any of these. You are happy, enthusiastic, inspired, or excited, right? So with this title, we will have to make a little review of the terminologies written here, such as the poll quizzes, formative assessment, and sync sessions. Okay, of course, poll is within the Zoom of Canvas. And when you do Zoom in Canvas, therefore you are doing a sync session. Okay, so therefore poll quizzes is only true for sync sessions. And then formative assessment, I'm going to have a little review of the characteristics of formative assessment in my next slide. Okay, formative versus summative assessment. In this column, on the left column, I have here formative assessment, and on the right column, the summative assessment. All right. Under formative assessment, here are the characteristics of formative assessment. Okay, first, formative assessment measures small parts of the instruction, and quizzes are a good way to test that. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Small parts of instruction, meaning to say as you go on. So this is sync session, therefore you are doing most probably your PowerPoint presentation. So as you go on with your PowerPoint presentation, you stop a little, you stop a while, and launch a poll quiz. Okay, so are a good way to test that. So you are testing how much the students have learned for the number of slides that you have shown to them. Next is emphasizes feedback. The third one has relation to with the second one. Allows students to receive feedback on precisely what they need to improve on. It shows them what to do next to get better. All right. So these two emphasizes feedback. The feedback may be used to revise or improve our work. So how do we do feedback in poll quizzes? We do this by giving them the answers immediately, the correct answers immediately. So in that way, they are immediately given a feedback either of how well they answered with the correct answer. Okay, with knowing the correct answer, they would know they could assess themselves how well they performed in how well they learned. Okay, allow students to receive on precisely what they need to. Of course, if they have learned of the correct answer and they did not get the question correctly, then therefore the next time around that they will encounter the similar question, they would already know the correct answer. So in that way, they are learning. So that becomes a formative assessment. Next is students can learn how to monitor their own performance first with respect to specific learning goals they understand. In each of our sync session, we give the students our learning objectives, and then we go on with our lecture to the PPT. So giving them poll questions and giving them immediately the answers, they would know how well they performed, how well they have learned. So by themselves, they are monitoring the progress of their learning through the poll questions. Okay. Next, poll quizzes is not used for grading. Students need and deserve an opportunity to learn before they are graded and how well they have learned. Okay, so for me, personally, I don't grade my poll quizzes. I don't want to be stressed with how much grade they would be getting from the poll quizzes, so that they could concentrate on the questions and they could concentrate on the right answers they would be giving. Okay, so in that way, they will be able to learn better. Okay, on the other side, on the other column, we have the summative assessment. And these are broader scope and measure learning over a longer period of time. Okay. Summative assessment are used to evaluate student learning progress and achievement at the conclusion of a specific instructional period, usually at the end of project, unit, course, semester, program, or school year. Therefore, it could be the end of a quarter, the end of a term, the end of a project, a unit or course. Okay, so the measure is broader as compared with formative assessment, where the measures are in small parts. Okay. So next slide. Okay, when and how to administer the poll quiz during a sync session. So there are 3 ways in which to administer the sync session. That is before start of session, during the session, or end of the session. If it is launched before, all of these are ungraded. If it is launched before the start of the session, then it becomes a soft opening, a form of review of past lesson, shuffling previous sessions poll quizzes given where answers had been revealed. So it becomes a review. No, you go back to the previous poll that you have given, shuffled it, or rephrased how they were formed in the original quiz that was given, so that it becomes a review. When you launch it during the session, it hacks attention span. Every 4 or 5 minutes, or every so much number of slides that you have given, you give them poll questions and then give the answers afterwards. And then you may also give them at the end of the session to summarize. So after you have given all your lecture, give poll quiz at the end of the session, give the answers, and of course, all of this you should be giving the explanations to the answers. Okay, if we are to evaluate this, they all comply with the characteristics of what you call this, this assessment, this type of assessment. Okay, measure small parts of the instruction, emphasizes feedback, allows students to receive feedback and where they need to improve. Students learn how to monitor their own performance, and is not used for grading, all ungraded. Okay, so preparing the poll question, how do you prepare? Prepare poll questions before the opening of the session, of the actual session. You open the Zoom and then prepare your question, and then save them in the Zoom.us. Then when you actually open now your session, open the save poll questions during the actual session. All right, so that's all for my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma'am De La Vega.
Yes, should I stop sharing now?
Yes, you may.
Mm-hmm.
So we're now opening the floor to any questions or any insights that anyone may have. Feel free to raise your hand and unmute, or you can also send them directly to me or in the chat box.
No questions at all?
Yeah, may loading time po. Ayan.
Okay.
So that was fast and straightforward. Would it look like an MCQ with frequency?
Yes, it's an MCQ. It could be an objective question or question with computations. Yes, with frequency, how it could look like MCQ with frequency. What do you mean by with frequency? Yes, it's a poll question, so therefore there will be number of respondents, number of who answered each letter of the choices. Yes, I did it fast because we were only allowed 15 minutes for the discussion and another 15 minutes for the question and answers.
Okay, so we have another question from our audience polls really work and keeps the class engaged, but Zoom polls are inferior to polling apps like Menti and Kahoot, which allow spontaneous comments, questions, and even their reactions. Ma'am, do you have anything to say to that?
Yes, it could be probably yes, but this one it's incorporated in the Canvas itself also already in the Zoom itself already, so there's no need to change systems. So it is within, and because you are only inserting it in your PowerPoint presentation.
All right, thank you for that, ma'am. Does anyone else have any questions?
Anything else?
Siguro, like I can also ask, like what other types of polling applications could you use or recommend, ma'am?
Polling applications. What I'm discussing now is just the poll application within the Zoom. But probably if you will find it better to use other applications that you can incorporate in your Canvas during your discussion, during your PowerPoint presentation, then there's nothing will prevent you from doing that.
So we have another question from our audience from Ma'am Young. Do you
Yes.
tell students that formative assessments are not graded? If so, is it a better motivator for participation?
Yes, I tell them beforehand, especially for these poll quizzes, that it is not what do you call this, graded. So as I have explained earlier, it's not graded so that students will be relaxed in answering, will not be preoccupied with the grade that they will be getting. They can concentrate more on answering the questions. Anyway, these types of questions will be again given probably possibly in the summative assessment, wherein if it is the second time that they are encountering the question and these have been explained previously during a poll quiz that is ungraded, then the concept, the questions, the answers to the question will be retained to them, and then they will all now, there is now a learning process, and then during the summative assessment, they would be able to most probably answer them correctly for the second time for the summative assessment.
All right, thank you for that. Oh, okay, so we have a couple of questions here from Ma'am Dikyon. So first question, which polling app or program do you use?
Okay,
Second,
it's just, yes, second.
Second question, can you describe the kinds of questions that are used for polling? So for example, are they questions answerable by yes or no? Or are they reflective questions? Or are they questions that need computations before they key in answers?
Yes, any of the combination of these types, okay, especially for example in the course I am teaching, there are computations, lectures that needs computation. So I'm sorry, first question please. Which polling app or program do you use? In my case, I just use the simple one, as I've said. It's just the polling within Canvas, within Zoom. It's just polling within Zoom, because the main activity that I am doing is the presentation, PowerPoint presentation, is the discussion. So I'm just inserting this. I just hack attention by giving these poll questions as a form of formative. So the next question, yes, I can give, I give any of these types of questions that you have mentioned, a yes or no answer. Multiple choice for theory and multiple choice for computational type questions. And then we discuss the answers.
Thank you for that, ma'am. So
Yes.
there's another question from the audience.
Uh-huh.
Can we do the poll before the session, then answer them at the end of the session so students find the answers during the lecture?
Yes, I have said that in my slide. I have explained the slide that there are 3 instances where we can launch the poll: before the session, during the session, and at the end of the session. For me, when I launch it at the beginning of the session, it becomes a review of our previous session. Okay, it's a review. So I could make another set of questions different from the previous session's poll that I have given, or I can make use of the same in order to monitor if they have learned from the previous session, the questions in the previous sessions. Though if I will launch the same, I will rephrase the questions or shuffle the sequencing of the questions that I have given before. So if it is given at the beginning, there should be much improvement on how they answered during the previous session, and they will be monitoring themselves. Then answer them at the end. No, answer them that during the time that I have launched it. They answer first, students answer, then after they answered, this is on the at the beginning of the session. After they have answered, then we will discuss the answers to the question. Then they will be since this poll program is I cannot see the yes, I can see the answers, diba? The answers of the students, the frequency of the answers. Okay, so I would know if most of them answered correctly, or only a few answered correctly. So by themselves, they can monitor themselves. So we will, I discuss the answers immediately after the set of poll questions that I have launched.
Thank you for that, ma'am. So we have an audience member raising their hand, Sir Ariel Dicyon. Feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Hi, ma'am. Maraming salamat po. It's a follow-up, I guess, with my earlier 2 questions and what you just said also. Do you get to share then do you also share the results of the poll with your students? Because you get to see nga, di ba, and how many students answered correctly.
Yeah.
And why do you make that choice of sharing, whether or not you share the results to them?
Okay.
What is the rationale behind that choice?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, I think I prepared to share the results. So this is also a way of monitoring themselves. So they can probably see themselves in relation to their classmates. So that's also a form of motivation. I think so. If you did not answer correctly and most of your classmates answered correctly because the frequency shows it, then it's a form of motivation for you that next time around, the answers being explained, the answers you know now why you answered incorrectly, then the next time around you will be able to answer it correctly and learn more. I think so. That's my view.
Salamat, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you also for the question.
Thank you for that question, sir. Thank you for your answer, ma'am. So does anyone else have any questions? Feel free to unmute or drop them in the chat box.
Yes, excuse me. And by the way, one of the other the other way to pause is during the session. So when I say you hack attention, while you give the lecture, let's say after you have given 5 or 6 slides, then you launch a set of questions dealing with those previous 5 slides that you have given, so that it's still fresh in their minds, so that you can keep track on how they are absorbing the lessons that you are giving. And also to prevent probably the students from thinking of other things, thinking of, or going to sleep, because they would, knowing that later on they will be answering some question, then it's a form of motivation for them to listen intently, to listen carefully to the lessons all throughout the presentation.
Thank you for that, ma'am.
Okay.
Does anyone else have questions? If you're feeling shy, you can directly send it to me, and I can read it aloud to the audience. Yeah. Okay, so here's a question from our audience. Do you require students to answer the poll even though it's not graded, or do they have the option not to answer at all?
Since there's frequency, I would know if everybody participated or not. I will require everybody to participate. Yes. As we are in the graduate school, as adult learners, they are responsible to themselves, not to me. No, but I will tell them everybody is required to participate. If I see that not 100% has participated yet, then I will prod them to answer. Everybody should answer. This is ungraded, but later on during the summative, perhaps in the midterms, similar set of questions, the same magnitude, what do you call that magnitude? Same type of questions dealing with the same concepts will be given in the midterms, and that will be the one that is to be graded.
So while we wait for more questions, I think I can add my own as well. What do we do for students who are consistently not answering these formative assessments? What steps can we take?
Okay, so I think in the poll of Zoom, we cannot see specifically the students, no, who answered or who did not answer, who answered correctly or not. But the mere fact that I will not go on until everybody has answered, then, and as adult learners, from my experience, everybody is complying.
Thank you, ma'am. So another question here from Ma'am Te. How many questions per poll is ideal?
Okay, how many questions? Since this is just a short quiz, short span, dealing with short span lessons, so probably 3 to 4. 4 is probably the maximum already. If it is short span, if it is if you're hacking attention, if it is in the middle, if you launch it in the middle, but if it is in the end as a summary of the lesson, you can give. I give as much as 10 to 15 questions if it is at the end. But if it is during the discussion, it is just 3 to 4 questions for every number of slides that you have given.
Thank you, ma'am.
To list words A.
So,
What do you mean by to list words A?
So I think while ayun. Oh, ayun. So while that question's being further thought of, I think I can also add another question while we wait for others to drop theirs. So what do we do if consistently hindi ideal yung answer sa poll? So what if the students aren't quite getting it as much as you would like consistently throughout the lesson?
their answers were most of them all the time, or most of the time, are not answering correctly. Majority of them are not answering correctly. Okay, so that needs the more it needs, the more that you should give frequent quizzes, short quizzes like this, dealing with short span lessons, because we'll be explaining more. If they didn't understand your slides, then giving a quiz and then students not being able to answer them, and then explaining it again, explaining why the answer is this and like that. So the more you should give, if they are consistently, not most of them are consistently answered, then it means to say more work that you should do, the teacher, the professor, more work on assessing them.
Thank you for that, ma'am.
Okay. So thank you also for asking me about some other programs for polling. So I might probably explore that, importing poll programs from other from other sources, and then incorporating it within my Zoom lesson. I have not tried it. So thank you for that.
Ooh, okay, so we have another question here.
Yes,
So what about polls who have open-ended questions? And this is open to everyone, I suppose. Like, would anyone here be aware of any polls that have open-ended options? Or ma'am De La Vega, what are your thoughts on such polls?
okay, if I have an open-ended question, then I'd rather not put it in poll, of course. It will be given during our discussion, our question and answer with the students. They give the answers, share it with us, so that everybody can hear immediately the answer to my question, to my open-ended question. I'll not put it in poll.
So are there any other questions, or does anyone here want to share their own experiences with polling or add their own insights to the discussion?
I'm sorry, I don't understand this question. I have attended a webinar in which they were able to list words 8.
Oh, yes. I think naputol lang yung
And
question.
then,
But
sorry.
that was asking about open-ended questions
Okay.
in your
All right.
class.
So I answered it already.
Yes. Does anyone else want to ask questions before we wrap up our very fruitful discussion?
Yes, I think this is a simple system, but knowing the essence of the system, knowing why all questioning ungraded, which is within the satisfy the characteristic of of this type of assessment, and probably not all of us are aware of it. It's a simple and easy way to monitor the progress of the students, and also a help to them to learn more. Okay.
So a lot of our audience members are thanking you, ma'am, for
Thank
your
you.
very
You're welcome. Thank you. My pleasure.
So we at SALT would also like to thank you, ma'am, for taking
Yes.
the time to discuss with us. So if there are no more questions,
Okay. So we're just in time. 2 minutes
yes, yes,
short of our
yes.
deadline.
Short but very fruitful nonetheless.
Thank you very much. I hope so. I hope that you have learned from this sharing.
Yes, definitely. I feel like we all can take something from this discussion.
Right.
So, with that, I would like to thank everyone for going to our discussion today, for giving us your insights and um, for your questions and for for your stories. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you also. Bye-bye.
So, with that, we will. And with that, this marks the conclusion of day 2 of our discussion today. So I hope we can see you again for day 3. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.